Imagination decides everything. Blaise Pascal, 1623 to 1662. Pascal's best-known book, Pensées, is not primarily a philosophical work. Rather, it is a compilation of fragments from his notes for a projected book on Christian theology. His ideas were aimed primarily at what he called libertines, ex-Catholics who had left religion as a result of the sort of free thinking encouraged by skeptical writers such as Montaigne. In one of the longer fragments, Pascal discusses imagination. He offers little or no argument for his claims, being concerned merely to set down his thoughts on the matter. Pascal's point is that imagination is the most powerful force in human beings, and one of our chief sources of error. Imagination, he says, causes us to trust people despite what reason tells us. For example, because lawyers and doctors dress up in special clothes, we tend to trust them more. Conversely, we pay less attention to someone who looks shabby or odd, even if he is talking good sense. What makes things worse is that, though it usually leads to falsehood, imagination occasionally leads to truth. If it were always false, then we could use it as a source of certainty by simply accepting its negation. After presenting the case against imagination in some detail, Pascal suddenly ends his discussion of it by writing, "Imagination decides everything. It produces beauty, justice, and happiness, which is the greatest thing in the world." Out of context, it might seem that he is praising imagination, but we can see from what preceded this passage that his intention is very different. As imagination usually leads to error, then the beauty, justice, and happiness that it produces will usually be false. In the wider context of the work of Christian theology, and especially in light of Pascal's emphasis on the use of reason to bring people to religious belief, we can see that his aim is to show the libertines that the life of pleasure that they have chosen is not what they think it is. Although they believe that they have chosen the path of reason, they have in fact been misled by the power of the imagination. Pascal's wager. This view is relevant to one of the most complete notes in the Pensées, the famous argument known as Pascal's wager. The wager was designed to give the libertines a reason to return to the church, and it is a good example of voluntarism, the idea that belief is a matter of decision. Pascal accepts that it is not possible to give good rational grounds for religious belief, but tries to offer rational grounds for wanting to have such beliefs. These consist of weighing up the possible profit and loss of making a bet on the existence of God. Pascal argues that betting that God does not exist risks losing a great deal, infinite happiness in heaven, while only gaining a little, a finite sense of independence in this world, but betting that God exists risks little while gaining a great deal. It is more rational, on this basis, to believe in God. Blaise Pascal. Blaise Pascal was born in Clermont-Ferrand, France. He was the son of a government functionary who had a keen interest in science and mathematics and who educated Pascal and his two sisters. Pascal published his first mathematical paper at the age of 16, and had invented the first digital calculator by the time he was 18. He also corresponded with the famous mathematician Pierre Fermat, with whom he laid the foundations of probability theory. Pascal underwent two religious conversions, first to Jansenism, an approach to Christian teaching that was later declared heretical, and then to Christianity proper. This led him to abandon his mathematical and scientific work in favor of religious writings, including the Pensées. In 1660-62 he instituted the world's first public transport service, giving all profits to the poor. Despite suffering from severe ill health from the 1650s until his death in 1662, key works: 1657 Lettres Provinciales, 1670 Pensées,